Ooh, I got a good one for you today that I've been cooking up for about the last week, just letting it brew, brew, brew. And today I was on a walk and it hit me. Boom. Okay, we got to go. And today we're talking about vices. Why we have vices, why we inherently like vices, why we want to keep vices a secret, why we think that the vices that we have are okay, why we believe them to be normal, and why our attachment to vices is keeping us in the same inner way of being that won't let us get to where we truly want to go. And it really starts with a story, because this is how it all got going. It's always a story, isn't it? I had some friends over to my apartment last week, just showing them this new place that I'm in. And I don't have a TV in this apartment. And as one of my friends came in, she said, "Oh, you don't have a TV here?" I said, "No." She said, "Well, how do you relax?" I sat there for a minute and I kind of thought, well, relax is my state of being. She said, "How do you spend your free time?" I said, "Well, I'm, working on my book, An Inevitable Becoming, that'll be out from the time this video comes out within 2 weeks. You can buy on Amazon. A story of my inevitable becoming and finding God and allowing all of the attachments that I held on to for so long to fall." Really, it could be seen as a story of letting go of vices. But I told her I spend my time working on my book. I read, I write, cook, and work out and coach clients. Those who want to be coached, who want to elevate their way of being, who want to live from the inside out. That's what I do. And I find it quite fun. She said, "Well, everyone should have vices. Vices are good." Huh. Vices are good. Interesting. And because it was centered around, the conversation was centered around television, inherently, television is a little vice that we all like. And it's good. It's good. At least that's what she believes. And I got to shout out my friend Leo, a man that I met in Germany. He put me onto this idea. He said, "Well, you know what television is, right?" I said, "No, I don't know." Let's spell it out. Now let's sound it out. Television, let's sound it out. Tell a vision. Tell a vision. Oh, who's telling me the vision? And could it be that I like having a vision told to me by the television because it is a vice to escape the reality that I'm in? And it's not that you consciously want to escape reality, it's that you unconsciously want to escape reality. And this video is gonna cut you deep if you live in this unconscious way of being. And good, it should. There's a reason that you're watching it right now, and it kind of is like, well, fuck this guy. What's he talking about? I'm talking about being a way of truth that your spirit is drawing you towards, right? Because you inherently sit down, boom, turn on the TV, watch whatever the fuck's on there, tell a vision, you escape reality, and it's unconscious escape because you're not comfortable in the reality that you're in right now. Now, I'm not saying that you can't go watch TV, on a Friday night to relax, but when you unconsciously turn it on, oh, I'm bored, turn it on, oh, I'm bored, turn it on, oh, I'm bored, turn it on. Now you get caught in a loop. You get caught in a loop. Now, this so perfectly ties in with what the Bhagavad Gita says in chapter 3, because Arjuna is asking Krishna, "What are you telling me? All you're telling me is this spiritual wisdom. Like, am I not supposed to act? Am I supposed to act? What do you want me to do?" Because as my friend so pointed out, vices are good, right? So they're just part of our action. Vices are just part of action. Vices are part of selfish action. Which is exactly what Krishna tells Arjuna as he asks. Because there's this misconception, this misunderstanding of karma. The misunderstanding of karma. That if I do good, good happens to me. Oh, I help someone cross the road, so something good will happen to me. Oh, something bad happened to me. I think back, I remember when I did something bad. That must be the karma from that. No. That's the loops that we get caught in the unconscious. Those are the loops. Those are the loops. And they're endless. They're endless. And that's what Krishna tells Arjuna, is that those who live in the world of duality, of good and bad, those who live in the world of good and bad. Oh, I did good, so good's gonna come to me. I did bad, so bad's gonna happen to me. Get caught in endless loops. Those who are attached to the outcome. Who think that, oh, because I worked, I get the fruit of the work. You are not entitled to the fruit of the work at all. Good and bad says, oh, I work, so I get the fruit. Whether that be good or bad. And then, inherently, we're disappointed when it doesn't match up to our expectations, because we live in a world of expectations. And so because we live in a world of expectations and we are always getting let down by our expectations, because we live in the endless loops of good and bad, we fall back on the vices that are the unconscious escapes from the reality that we live in. Whereas, if you can enter, as Krishna so eloquently tells Arjuna, if you can embody, because Arjuna is sitting there saying, well, all you're telling me is spiritual wisdom. Am I not supposed to act? And Krishna encourages throughout the entire book for Arjuna to act. You must act. We must live in the world and act. We must act. We must be in the world. That fit perfectly. Look at that. We must act in the world. We must act in the world. That is the Dharma. The Dharma of the warrior is to fight. You must act in the world. Okay, so then we get caught in the question of, okay, if I must act in the world, how do I not get caught up in loops of karma? Because we believe, we have this misunderstanding of karma that cause and effect, cause and effect, cause and effect. But it has to be good or bad, right? We deem these things as good or bad, good or bad. And that's how we get caught in the endless loops of what is inside your brain as you do something and then you think back and you're, that was bad. Well, now something bad might happen to me. Boom, and then it happens and then you prove yourself right. Always. Whereas Krishna invites Arjuna to the understanding that enlightenment, spiritual enlightenment, is the understanding and the act of selfless action. Selfless action. The act of selfless action. Where do we want to put this? We'll put it right down here. I'll get a little bend down going. The act of selfless action, we'll put it one more time, without thought. Without the thought that, okay, I'm going to do this selfless action, right? I'm going to help the old lady cross the road because that will get me good karma. Nope, caught in the loop. Rather than, I'm just going to help this lady cross the road because it is my duty to do so. It is my duty to do so. And that is exactly what Krishna tells Arjuna in the 3rd chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. You must act in selfless action without thought. Without thought. So it's a dropping beneath thought. This is not, none of what I say is like mental skills. It's an interior way of being in the heart. It goes beneath thought. Therefore, when you get to, let's bring it back to vices. Because this fires me up. Because never once had I thought, oh man, I don't have any vices, I gave up drinking, gave up smoking weed, I gave up any nicotine. So I'm just sober-minded. And it was all by choice. And it was all just a letting go process. That's exactly what my book, An Inevitable Becoming, is about. And it was done by choice, and it becomes joy because the devotion to a clear mind becomes joy. The devotion to a clear mind becomes joy. Thus, when you live in this way of being, there becomes no unconscious, we'll draw that one over there. There is no unconscious escape out of reality. And why does it feel good when you have a vice? Because you drop out of reality. And yet we live in this world of inherent suffering because people are addicted to suffering. They're addicted to the loops of karma, the judgment of good, bad, good, bad. We love it. It's like a dopamine hit. When something good happens, oh yeah, I knew it was gonna. When something bad happens, okay, well now I can get back up. Rather than if you can just live in the world of action, of selfless action without thought. Now you might say, well, how do I do that? How do I live in the world of selfless action without thought? In the realization that it is my divine duty to do so. And I'm not saying you have to give up everything. Now, in your heart of hearts, as you listen, your spirit might be like, well, yeah, you do probably need to give up this and give up that. You're like, no, I kind of like that stuff. I kind of like the suffering because I kind of like feeling bad for myself because I kind of like getting back up and piecing it all together. But really all you're doing is doing a loop of the same spot over and over and over and over again. But you kind of like it. And you know you kind of like it. I'll let that settle for a moment as I erase the whiteboard. Because it is such an interesting predicament that we find ourselves in with the misunderstanding of karma, right? Because that's exactly what Arjuna asks, is like, Krishna, like, you're telling me to act, but if karma comes from action, how do I escape the loop of karma? And that's when Krishna tells him, you have to get beyond, they call them the ganas. You have to get beyond them because in that place is where the Atman resides. They call it the Atman, the highest version of the self, the infinite that lives within, the God within you. That is where the Atman resides. And that Atman does not live, reside, exist in the world of good and bad, in the world of selfless action. Krishna literally points out to Arjuna, like, people inherently suffer because they live in the world of good and bad. That's it. That's like as simple as he lays it out for him. The Atman. You could call it, the self with the capital S. the God within. That which may never die. So let's bring it back to karma. Let's bring it back to vices. Vices and karma. I mean, we're interlooped right now. Vices, why do they feel like this little secret that you have with ourselves? Because we love keeping secrets with ourselves. We love, okay, well, if I just, and let's rewind for a moment. Let's look at the phrase right here, because we already checked out television. Let's look at the phrase that we all say. How about I'm going to let myself? And you fill in the blank. I'm going to let myself. I'm taking myself. Now, over on this side, we separate the word self. So we're taking myself. We're taking myself to wherever, to do whatever. You name it, it doesn't matter. But if we separate, we're taking myself. So you're taking, the highest version of yourself with you, potentially the Atman with you to do whatever. And you're subjecting this Atman, the neutral, to whatever experience that it is, to whatever vice you want to do. So let's name a vice. What's a vice that people like? Call it drinking, because inherently everyone knows that drinking not good for you, right? That's a fundamental truth. Not good for you. I'm not saying you can't do it. I truly don't care if you do it. However, right? Okay, so you go drink and you bring the Atman with you because it's always within you. The highest version of yourself is always within you. It always has been and it always will be. And you bring in, it's like this neutral figure that just sits there and just watches you, because you have myself and you also have my capital S self. That's the Atman that sits there with you, and it watches the little self. It watches the little self that just won out in this action. Because inherently someone asked you, oh, you want to go do this? You want to go drink? And you sat there and you're like, yeah. And then, probably the littlest, the tiniest little faintest whisper within you was like, oh, but you got that thing tomorrow. Or, oh, maybe time would be better, but you're going to get bad sleep. And then that's going to lead to, whatever it may be. And you had this internal dialogue, right? And then inherently someone's going to win. Someone's going to win. And when we're divided, when we live in the world of vices are good, the little self wins. And so you sit there and you maybe end up having a good time because you unconsciously get beneath, the reality that is truly happening from a clear mind, and you let yourself go, which that is one, misunderstanding, or maybe it's a lack of understanding, because I thought too, like, oh man, well, if I stop drinking, or if I stop smoking, or if I stop, doing these nicotine pouches, things are going to get boring, right? No, the world gets way more exciting. Just as an observation, I found the world to get way more exciting. You have more energy, you're clear-minded, you can observe, you can have better conversations. I mean, it's just, everything starts to expand, right? And then you don't live in the unconscious desire for a vice. Like, it's not even that I miss drinking, or I miss smoking, or I miss nicotine, any of them, you name it. Miss any of them. I don't miss any of them, because it's like, what? That's just not, the relationship with the higher self is so strong when you're able to listen to your spirit over and over and over again, because the loop is always occurring. So maybe in listening to the highest version of yourself, your spirit, over and over and over again, you allow yourself to inspire yourself. You allow yourself to inspire yourself. Because if you can take yourself somewhere, You can inspire yourself. And again, this video, I don't care what you do. It literally doesn't matter to me. But if you're watching, if you're watching this long, maybe something's sticking where it's like, that might actually be what I need to do. And then you just, how do you do it? Make one conscious decision after another. And eventually you enter the space which Krishna is inviting Arjuna towards, which is the realization that the highest version of yourself lives in action. It is not in giving up the world. You can be in the world, but it's done so out of the duty of selfless service. You know, I've made the conscious decision. I don't care if one person watches these videos, but they have to be sent out into the ether, into the universe, because it is my selfless service, my duty to the world. In the inspiration that I had as I was walking, and I said, oh man, I should make a video about vices. Boom. Now if I don't do it, I'm divided. Okay, well then now we come to the unconscious desire for vices because I'm not listening to the highest version of myself, and thus, who knows? But that's not the reality that I choose to play in. That's not the game that I choose to play. I choose to play the game of selfless service because it is my divine duty. And thus, as they say in the Bible, you take up your cross daily. It is a daily action. It is a daily conscious way of being, where it's not just like, oh, well, okay, Matt, now I made the decision. Now it happens for me every day. No. There's points where it's like, the little self is like, man, I'd really like to act selfishly right now. What would be good for me? And then the more that you can become conscious in the unconscious that is occurring around you, the more you can be like, nah, that's not what we're gonna do. Because we're always together, and thus I begin to inspire myself. So you have two options, really. All boils down to two options. Because in the game of vices, you just chase your tail. And you pick up and you just end up in this loop that just goes like this, in the same spot, right? In the same spot. However, in the game that we play of selfless service, it is an effortless loop that continues to expand, that promises nothing. There's zero promises. There's no promises that you'll get a better job. There's no promises that you'll make more money. There's no promises that you'll have a great partner. There's no promises that you'll have a better relationship with anyone around you. No. There's no promises. It is purely life asking you, which game would you like to play? You know the Matrix when he's like, red pill, blue pill? Which game do you want to play? Seriously, which game do you want to play? Because as I said in the last video, and as they say in Matthew, I want to say it's 3:11, but I'm going to have to check that real fast. It is dang, I was so close, 3:12. He will baptize you with the Holy Spirit and fire. Pull out the red pen for that. The Holy Spirit and fire. I was on a run today listening to music. All of a sudden I look at my phone and I see 2 text messages from clients that work with me. And so I listen to their voice messages as I'm running. Both of them talk about an aliveness within their body that they have not experienced in quite some time because they made the conscious decision to go towards the unknown of selfless service of what is their divine duty. I promise you, both of them. And they're speaking about the inevitability that is to come from that, the conscious certainty that is to come from that, without promises, but rather just The conscious certainty, well, that tomorrow, okay, well, I act in selfless service, so tomorrow I'm going to pick up my cross and I'm going to act in selfless service again and see what happens. And I'll tell you what, the game gets pretty fun. The game gets really fun. Really, really, really fun. But again, I can tell you how good this fruit tastes, but until you're willing to taste it for yourself, it cannot be understood. The Holy Spirit and fire. Maybe the fire that he's coming with comes in the form of vices. And thus we think these vices are good for us. Right? Because if you want to live in the masses, that's cool. That's cool. That's cool. I just don't coach the masses. That's just not what I can't do that. I want to coach people who want to look in the direction of selfless service because it is their divine duty. And maybe they have some tiny inclination, whatever they're doing, an athlete, a business owner, and a CEO, you name it, an author, like an artist, it doesn't matter. But it's someone who's looking in the direction of selfless service, and this fire of vices is burning at their soul as they hear themselves say, man, there's a different way of being, and I know that I want to embody it. How do I do that? Come into conversation. Step into my office. Let's talk. Let's just see what's present for you. And that's so lovely because I don't have there's no methods. There's no like rules that you have to follow. It's just listening, uncovering what's there, and seeing what could be possible for you. And there's just a multitude of ways that could be done. But that's for, we'll keep that one for later. So which game do you want to play? Do you want to play the game of selfless service or do you want to play the game of vices? Because the crossover between back and forth is where it is the fire that will burn in your soul. And yeah, I'm not here to say I don't watch a little YouTube here and there. It's not like I'm, just a monk. But I'm able to be conscious in the unconscious. Not sit there in loops and loops and loops. Thus, you can sit and ask yourself, like, why do I have these vices? And what are they? And what am I attached to? This is where we're going to, finish this. Because this is all a vice is. A vice is just an attachment to something. It's just an attachment to something. Which, as Krishna tells Arjuna, that you have to get beyond the point, that everyone talks about detachment. You have to get beyond the point of attachment. What are you attached to? What are you attached to? Because there's no attachment of any kind that's good. I promise you. There's no attachment of any kind that's going to be like, well, I'm attached to working out, and that's good for me. Nope. Can you exist in that way of working out with being detached from the outcome of it? Just doing it for the fun of it? Truly. What are you attached to that is holding you back? Sit and write about that for 20 minutes and see what comes up. And inherently at first, if you're not used to writing a lot, you're going to want to hide some things. No one's going to read it. It doesn't matter. Something as I wrote about this the other day, I'll take you through it for myself. What am I attached to that's holding me back? I'm attached to thinking that the fruits of my work are better than the work itself. So how do I exist with that? Well, I become conscious of it, which I have as I, write about over time. Become conscious of it, and then you just do more selfless acts. Over and over and over again. You listen to the inclinations of your spirit. You ever walk by someone and be like, man, I really want to compliment them for what they're wearing, and then you don't do it? Why not? Why don't you do it? Because you're inherently attached to safety. You know? So how can I exist in a realm as Krishna is telling Arjuna, how do I exist in a realm where the work is greater than the fruit? That's just through selfless action. Through detachment. Through consistency of heart posture. Through surrounding yourself with the right people. It goes on and on and on and on. And this is just the game they play. This is why I take however long this video is going. For whoever's listening, it doesn't matter. Because the work is greater than the fruit. The work is greater than the fruit. And that is a conscious awareness over and over and over again. The work is greater than the fruit. There is no fruit that I don't have. All the fruit which I seek out there is in here. Yet the more that I drop out of myself, the highest version of myself, the further I go from the Atman. That's not even a word that I spelled right there. The further I go from the Atman, the more I'm attached. And thus, this is only going to resonate, as I say in the book, in a chapter of my book, this is only going to resonate with a ready mind, with the mind whose inclination of their spirit is starting to grow just a little bit louder, and is just able to hear beyond the words and allow themselves to be inspired by themselves, and allow themselves to follow the way of the highest version of themselves, the capital S. The capital S. Thus, I just become I become consciously aware of my attachments and then allow myself to detach from them. So you can just spend some time in this question right here. What are you attached to that is holding you back? And anything that you were attached to thus becomes a vice to move further away from yourself. So what are you attached to?